Welcome back to this week's episode of the Roundtable. Now, if you missed us from last week, we talked about a variety of things. We talked about the Nintendo Switch. We talked about something that we haven't really put up yet that we are going to be putting up about one of our kind of favorite television shows out there. And before we get there, hello to you, Templar 10. I guess my biggest burning question is, how does it feel to be living in a country that has like negative 26 degree wind chill? Isn't that what you guys had? Or negative 26 degree temperature? Something like that?
Yeah. Last night, or the other 2 nights ago, it was minus 25 Celsius. Yes. Plus whatever the wind chill was. That was with that wind chill.
So what do you do? Like, how do you ever go outside? Do you just live in a cave? Like, what do you do?
That was at night. I mean, it tends to be worse at night, as you would expect. During the day, it's not as bad. But when it's negative 20 during the day, yeah, I mean, just wear multiple layers, like invest in long johns. Long john stocks go up, and you just kind of put on a balaclava and like throw some stuff on and go outside. Yeah.
That sounds
Generally
awful.
speaking, you still don't just like hang out outside though. So
oh, really? You're not just like
unless you really have like multiple layers. I don't wear like snow pants and stuff. There's not enough snow for that, so I just, I throw on a pair of long johns and a couple layers on like jacket and stuff and go out, and I'm okay.
That sounds
for the
awful.
time I have to go outside refilling the wood box and whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's not great living in a place where like you go outside and it hurts your face to be outside, but like it's the reality of where we are. So.
Yeah. I mean, you could move down here to Florida. It's currently 40. Actually, it was earlier. It's 44 degrees here with a wind chill.
Yeah, it's been cold with you guys. It's been cold for you guys as well.
Yeah. We have somebody in the chat saying, "Nah, it's great living up there." I don't think so. I think you have deluded yourselves into thinking that it's great living in places like this, and it's okay.
It has its moments, but
I don't know.
There's sometimes where it's tough. It's all perspective, because I taught up north in a very far north community in Ontario on James Bay, which is like Hudson Bay, and it got down to negative 45 with wind chill up there for stretches, or negative 47 I think was the lowest we had one day. So that's really like, you don't go outside unless you really have to go outside. You're wearing like it's to school. I had to walk to school in the morning, and it's just, you're still freezing. That's the temperature where like, if you don't wear goggles, you can feel your eyes freezing as you're walking.
Oh, that's so unpleasant.
Like your eyes hurt because it's like the liquid in your eyes is like starting to freeze as you're like just trying to look around.
I think you guys are crazy.
It's not great.
Yeah. Annika in our Twitch. So by the way, just like we did last episode, like we're going to do every episode, we're also, maybe not every episode, but a lot of our episodes, we are recording this live on Twitch as well, and then bringing it over to YouTube. And Annika's Cakery from our Lux Digital Church Discord says, "I've done negative 50 plus wind chill." That was a cat you just saw. That was a cat butt you just saw. Thank you. That was very funny. just a cat. My hair would freeze if it was even a little wet when I would go outside. That sounds absolutely awful. Well, I know you all came to this video. You clicked on this video because of the hot takes about winter. I'm really, really sure. But I wanted to go from one frozen wasteland to another frozen wasteland. You see how I did that?
It's a good transition.
Thanks. It's really good. They really mean something when you have to actually point them out. That's when you know that they worked. From one frozen wasteland to another frozen wasteland. We've been watching mainlining Silo, the hit show on Apple TV Plus. We talked about this on our last episode that you're going to see in a couple of days. And then we're going to talk about season 2. Now, we are going to fill this one with spoilers. So if you are in our Twitch chat, you can leave. I love you. I understand if you're going to watch the show, but we're going to talk about it. Like, we're going to get into it. I've got some serious kind of like questions. I have some kind of theories I want to ping off of Templar. But
we'll give general takes first. Maybe we'll give a couple minutes of like general takes, overall impressions, and then we'll get into some spoiler stuff.
I'm all about like Templar is he's my temper here. He's like tempering me. Templar. You see that? You and your wife kind of went through this in what, 3 days, maybe 4 days? Is that what happened?
we've gone through it pretty quick, both seasons. My wife really got into it. She was maybe even more into it than I was, and I liked it. So, she was always kind of. We would have gone through it even faster if it had been up to her. Every day she was like, "You want to watch more of our Silo show?" So yeah, it was good. It was good to have a show to watch together.
So how did you have to convince her to watch this show? Like, did you have to sell it to her, or just said, "Hey, let's try to watch something"?
Not really. I just told her that you had recommended it and Severance, and then when I saw we could get the 3-month trial for free of Apple TV, we got it, and I said you had recommended it, and we'd been kind of looking for something to watch anyway, so it just worked out.
Okay, so season 2 opens after season 1, where Juliet, who is, I guess, ostensibly the heroine of the first season. She's not necessarily the sole heroine of the second season. I think there's a couple of main characters in the second season that...
She's the protagonist of season 1.
Right.
There's multiple protagonists of season 2.
Right, and then they kind of flip. Some of the protagonists flip alliances kind of halfway through, unknowingly, unwittingly, and then they don't, which we don't have to get into the nuances of all that stuff. But she leaves her silo. She gets kicked out of her silo, essentially, and she finds another silo. And throughout this season, there's kind of dueling storylines here. There's Juliet in, is it silo 17? 17 and 18?
17.
Yeah, silo 17, which appears to be dead. For all intents and purposes, it's dead. And there's a couple of flashbacks that you kind of see what actually happened to the silo, but it's, for all intents and purposes, dead. And then silo 18, which is where she came from, which is where kind of everything else is happening and kicking off. There's a rebellion starting. We've got kind of like a murder plot happening. There's a bunch of double crossing and some things happening there. There's a mayor who is usurping power. An acting mayor who's usurping power, and there's kind of some things there. And so, general takes from you before we go any further and dive into some of the questions. What did you think of season 2 compared to season 1?
I preferred season 1 just in terms of general, overall comparison. I would say season 1 had a little bit more. I feel like it just had more drive to it. Like, I felt like it was moving more. Season 2, I feel like it kind of got lost at a couple parts where it was like, okay, like there's stuff going on, but it just didn't feel as propulsive as season 1.
Yes.
I wasn't always into the idea of her going to another silo is cool, and I enjoyed it, but I think I wasn't always the most invested in that stuff as I thought I could be. I thought I could be more invested in the stuff with her in the other silo than I often was.
Yes.
And then the stuff in the original silo, I felt like started to get kind of samey sort of feeling.
Yes.
Like that it had been kind of too much of the same since season 1 in terms of the scheming and the political, like the maneuvering and that stuff that Bernard is doing. Shout out Tim Robbins, who's great in the show.
Yes. And
it just started to feel like too much of the same. So like ultimately I enjoyed season 2. I thought it was good. I like a lot of the characters in it. We'll get into it in spoilers, but there was a point late in season 2 where it really started to lose me in terms of some character decisions. And then the last episode kind of got me back when it was revealed sort of what had actually happened, and they do a little bit of a flip on some stuff. But overall, good. Probably, if season 1 to me is like an 8.5, this one's like a 7.
Yeah.
7.5, something like that. Like, it's good, solid. I'm still invested. I'm still looking forward to season 3. We were talking before we started recording that I ordered the books, right? I ordered the books on Amazon, the box set of the 3 books that the show is based on. So like, I want to see what happens. I am invested in the world, but to me, maybe not quite as good as season 1.
Yes.
How about you?
Yeah, so I actually did the same thing about 3 hours ago. I ordered books 2 and 3. I have book 1 on my Kindle. I've read it. I read it actually after season 1, and so I kind of knew book 1 kind of
what
bled.
Was coming.
Yeah, it bled a little bit, not as much as you'd think. And what I appreciate about what they're doing is they're not doing like, hey, book 1 is season 1, book 2 is season 2. They're not doing that. They're also not doing the Lord of the Rings thing of I have to keep strict guidelines about what's happening when, because everything needs to match up. They're not necessarily doing that. They're taking the showrunner is taking a bit of creative liberty with it. That being said, though, the world building, it's really cool to have read this book and then to see the people like that always good. And I do think that season 1 really matches up to the book in terms of, you know how the old adage is, well, the book's always going to be better because you can do a number of different things with books. The season 1 is, you're right, it's like an 8.5. It's not like the most mind-blowingly amazing season of television ever, but it does enough, and it breadcrumbs enough, just like the book, to where you almost immediately get invested in this, like, wait, what is going on here? And so season 2 does that. Now, there's a couple of things that I have to 100% agree with you. It starts very slow, and there's a couple of reasons for that we'll get into in spoilers, that it kind of has to start slow in order to pace out some things. I think they probably could have dropped one whole episode and squeezed some things together. The rebellion storyline was kind of samey. There's some things there. Again, we'll get into spoilers when we get there. However, the addition of Steve Zahn to the cast was brilliant. He's
really good,
so great, and I'll explain why again in spoilers. I'm holding a lot of this. He does so good. I like him as an actor anyway. I think he's very versatile. He's funny. He's serious. He's all of the above at the same time in this show. He goes. Did you ever see
War for the Planet of the Apes?
Yeah.
He's great in that as the sort of like very kind of sad comic relief character. He's excellent in that.
Well, and he kind of plays that same.
It's similar. That's what made me think of it.
Yeah, sad comic relief, almost like you pity him, and you don't know why you pity him. You just kind of there's like a sense of uneasiness. He shows up in episode 3? I think episode 3 is called Solo. Yeah, he shows up in episode 3, and he's like a pair of eyes in episode 2, and then you meet him in episode 3, and he immediately is like this foil for Juliet. Juliet is like this stern, serious, like, I've got to save the silo. I've got to do this thing. And Steve Zahn's like, yeah, man, but like, I'm crazy and I don't know why I'm crazy. And there's like the uneasiness until the very last episode when you find out why there's an uneasiness. Maybe it's the second to last episode. All that being said, like, I wholeheartedly agree with you, except for, I think the last 3 episodes, so the dive, episode 8, episode 9, and episode 10, I think are really good. I think that's very much when it picks up, and it's almost like they have set their character arcs. They have all the plans are in motion. Everything's going to happen. There's going to be some explosions and some fighting. Some people are going to die. Some stuff's going to happen, and it's like they sold out to that. And it's no coincidence that right at this time in my YouTube recommended videos, which I don't normally click, but in my YouTube recommendations, I saw a bunch of behind the scenes stuff of how they actually built the water tank and how they built Silo 17 and how they did the vault. And it was Steve Zahn walking through things. And like, I got super invested in that. And I think that kind of helped me keep my head down in these things. Last little bit for me, and then we can either turn it back over to general stuff or into spoilers. But how do you feel about the kind of a cinematography? This is actually a big debate online of the cinematography of this season, because it was remarkably dark. Most of the time it was dark. I felt like I had to continually turn up my screen brightness on either my TV or on my iPad, whatever I was watching on, to actually catch a lot of the details. Did that bother you? Did you notice it? Or was it kind of like, whatever?
I didn't really think about it. Now that you say it, it's like, yes, of course, it is very dark. I mean, certainly all the stuff in Silo 17 almost is all pretty dark because the silo's dead, essentially, and all a decent percent of it takes place underwater, and there's all these different things happening. So there's a reason for it to be dark. It wasn't a problem for me. Maybe there are details I didn't pick up on because of that, but I didn't see it as like an issue. I thought it made sense for what was happening, and I thought it was all good.
Yeah. Okay. The more I thought about it, the more I was like, yeah, okay, I understand it. But I have a tough time with shows, particularly that are shot in ways that are trying to portray something through through darkness. And I think the reasoning for that, Hanneke even says, I'm so tired of shows being so dark. Like, I'm okay with the darkness of topic, because I think there's a there's a like a cathartic way of doing things there. I am tired of things being so like color, brightness, luminance dark. Maybe it's because I live in Florida and the sun's out a lot here, and it's really tough to see things when the sun is out on, you know, non-OLED panels, and like I don't have money to buy OLED for everything. I watch a good majority of things like when I'm sitting on the exercise bike and on my iPad, and so there's a thing that like I agree with Annika that there's a lot of shows right now that are just darker than normal. And I wonder if that's a trend that is societal, or if that's just like, I don't know, man, we got really expensive cameras and we can try to do HDR. You know, video games are doing that right now too. So I don't know. Is that something that you feel, or you just, again, don't care about that?
Right. So you mean dark literally in the sense of low light rather than dark tone wise.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if I've noticed that. I haven't watched that many shows, and I feel like the shows I have watched over the course of the last year, like say Fallout, for example, is pretty colorful.
It is.
This was dark in parts, but all the stuff in Silo 18 for the most part is pretty bright, other than the like underground, like well, it's all underground, but the under stuff, which kind of gets dark again.
Yes.
But I guess I just haven't watched that many. And then my wife and I tried to watch Severance. We watched the first episode, and that show is aggressively bright.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't know if I've experienced it. Maybe I just haven't watched the right things.
Okay. Well, Severance, when we get to Severance, what did you think of the first episode? This is not a Severance review. What did you think of the first episode? No? Didn't like it?
Not for us.
Okay. All right. That's fair. It is that is like, you watch that first episode and you go yes or no. That is one of those shows. You don't need to watch like 3 or 4 episodes. You're right. It is aggressively
not into the humor. It's just, it has a very specific sensibility, I guess, like humor. And both my wife and I are just like, no.
That's fair. That is absolutely fair.